One is from Ron Paul, the former presidential candidate, former a representative in Congress from Texas, doctor. He wrote a piece. It's really good, basically making the argument that coronavirus tyranny, his term, coronavirus tyranny is coming. Forced vaccinations and digital certificates. He's talking about the idea that when he was in Congress, he voted against some forced vaccination or urging of vaccination from Washington way back in 1976 due to the swine flu, because we raced to develop a vaccination for swine flu. And when that vaccination was ready, farmed it out there, really, really pushed people to get it, with the outcome that it wasn't a good vaccine. It hurt a lot of people. It actually paralyzed some people. His point was, we're doing the same craziness of racing toward a vaccine. And he points out there are authoritarian proposals already in place to say, well, once we have the vaccine, or even if we don't have the vaccine, all this massive testing, you're going to have people told, I'm sorry, you don't have your authorization. So you're to prove that you are immune, that you've either had the virus and gotten over it, or eventually had the vaccine. So you're prohibited from air travel. He says airline companies are already saying, people are saying, why don't you require a blood test before people can board an airplane again? Why don't you do the same thing for train travel, for public concerts, public places? This is an astounding idea that in America we're talking about just go ahead and give away your liberty, let government regulate you, all in the name of public health. So we have a just massive wake-up call being put out there by Ron Paul. Similarly, a really good piece by Jonathan Turley, who is a liberal law professor. He has been defending Trump because the impeachment was such a ridiculous attack on Trump, and all sorts of norms of law were disregarded. And so Turley was standing up for the rule of law. But he's out there saying we are in danger in our country of having immunodiscrimination. His term, immunodiscrimination and a pandemic passport. We're in danger, and the path we're on to getting to where we're going to say, well, we have to have some kind of proof of you're immune or you're not. And then once we have that, of course it will be used to discriminate against people. You don't have your immunization card? You can't eat in a restaurant, go in a grocery store, get on an airplane. You can't do all these things. People, the virus is giving leftists the vehicle to move us away from a country rooted in liberty to a country rooted in government control. And people are a little bit too willing to surrender it because they're worried about the virus. Even though more data is showing, and I'm going to close this out. One last quick story, but close this out by saying, you may remember we talked about in this show, we had a video from Dr. Daniel Erickson in Kern County, California, and his colleague, Dr. Artin Masahi. The two of them were trying to say that the data we have now in end of April 2020 is very different from the data we had at the start of the coronavirus. Their point is that the entire reaction we had to the shutdown, the entire decision to force healthy people, to put healthy people under house arrest, instead of quarantining the sick, putting healthy people under house arrest has actually made our situation worse. It was a bad policy decision. It ends up depressing our immune systems. It prevents normal, healthy people from continuing to develop immunity, from coming into contact with coronavirus and doing what our bodies always do, which is to develop immunity to it. So we have the antibodies to it. They put that out there, contrary to the information the government was putting out there, to the plan put in place by the government when this first came on. Fauci and Birx Drs. Fauci and Birx in Washington said the reaction was, we're all going to freeze in place and house arrest for the healthy. And these guys are saying, they weren't even faulting Fauci, but they're saying this wasn't the right plan. And it isn't just these two doctors in Kern County. You have Dr. Katz from Yale. You have Dr. Yodanis from Stanford. You have Dr. Scott Atlas from Stanford. You have doctors around the country saying, this is not the right way. You shouldn't be wearing masks. You shouldn't be. We're hurting ourselves. It's the wrong reaction. People, this is another example of the crushing of liberty in this country. YouTube, as you know, I think, took down that video from the Kern County doctors. YouTube took it down. They briefly put it back up. They've taken it down again. If you can't find it, you can email me or put a note on, if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching, Facebook, send me a note and I can post the link. You can still see it. But the point is, it's another example of surrendering liberty. These are elitists telling you you're not allowed to know what the truth is. You're not allowed to know any opinions except the government-approved opinions, and they are not what these two doctors are saying. You must go along with what we say has to be said.